Once your clay tile has been fired once and is ready for glaze, you're going to be decorating it using these following materials: glaze, various size brushes, sponge, water container, newspaper, as well as black glaze. Step is to take black glaze and blotch it all over all your engraved areas. You're not concerned about being too careful here, you're just really trying to get it in all the cracks and the engraved areas. But also don't be wasteful and cover the whole surface with black glaze. Once you've allowed it to dry, you take a damp sponge, wring it out into a container of water, and then scrub all sides of the brush against the tile. Then I would clean off my sponge, wring it out, and then repeat these steps. So just use all those sides up to clean off your surface. As you're scrubbing, you won't be able to remove all of the black from every single crack. That's just part of the process. So once you get it as clean as you can let it dry and then start transitioning to using colored glaze. I'm going to start with my detailed areas using a detailed brush. When you're filling in the detailed areas with the detailed brush, you want to be very careful to not let the color glaze get into the cracks. So you're going to be going through and making sure that the color that you use for each quadrant is the same. So for all of these shapes that I'm doing, I'm using the color purple, and I'm going to make sure that's consistent, because a radial design means it repeats every single degree or every single rotation. So I'm filling in all these lines or all these areas very carefully. Now, once you've coated everything once, let it dry and then repeat the process a second time and a third time. All colored glaze must be applied with 3 coats, not just one. So as soon as I'm done with this top right one here, I'm going to repeat that for all of them a second time and all of them a third time. Now that I've colored everything that is purple with 3 coats, I'm moving on to my background layer. Notice that I'm using a broad brush or a bigger brush here because I'm filling in larger areas. This is going to allow you to fill in a large area very quickly. I wouldn't go right to the edge with the details with this brush. That's going to be difficult to do. Notice how I'm leaving kind of the edges of my different shapes blank. I'm going to come back to there with my detailed brush. So I'm filling in the broad areas with the broad brush strokes, being really careful to not let any drip into the engraved areas. Now I'm switching to my detail brush, and I make a mistake right there, the first thing I do, and I'm going to be going around all of the areas here very carefully. Now as you're applying this glaze, you want to make it as thick as possible, but also under control as possible. So you want to use 3 coats of every color that you use, but the thicker, the better. So I'm applying it thick, but making sure that it's not dripping down into the engraved areas. So try to walk that tightrope or that razor blade of expectations that I have there. So I'm filling in all of the edges with that color. Once you've let it dry, you can try to put a little black glaze into that engraved areas. But if you do that, you could very well make it worse than what it originally was. So this is an example of what not to do. So if you try to drop it in there, it could be okay, or it might not look great. So most of the time I'd recommend you don't do this for this exact reason. You're going to end up making it worse than better.